accept it. Keep in mind that any loaded data coming down that line will actually overwrite any data you have currently in your GT-10. Make sure you've backed up before doing this, and just be careful with that. Now, in addition to the MIDI ports in the rear panel, we have a USB port that allows you to make the connection to your USB-equipped Mac or PC. If you just connect your GT-10 to a Mac or a PC with a regular USB cable, then a standard USB driver will be automatically installed. A better way to go would be to download the latest advanced driver directly from your local Roland website. Install that on your Mac or PC and then set up your GT-10 to use that advanced driver. Press System, USB, and Enter. Now we'll select Advanced mode, and as we can see on the screen here, we'll need to restart. So I'll cycle the power. Now I've already downloaded and installed the advanced driver on my laptop. And once the GT-10 has rebooted here, I can connect my USB cable up to it. So what kind of things can I do with a USB connected GT-10? I'm glad you asked. We can send MIDI messages through it rather than using the MIDI ports. It saves you the expense of buying a MIDI interface for your computer. You can also use the Librarian software that is free on Roland's website. Just Google GT-10 Librarian download. And perhaps the most interesting application of USB is the ability to pass audio back and forth down the cable right into your audio recording application, meaning you can record your guitar tracks right down your USB cable into your favorite audio program. Even apply GT-10 effects to a dry recorded guitar track. It's almost like a hardware plugin. Let's start with the first one, which is the Librarian. Okay, I've downloaded and installed the GT-10 Librarian program, and we have it all fired up with our GT-10. We've connected the GT-10 to our computer via USB. Now this is the main screen that comes up, and we can elect to read or pull just certain patches. Like if I was to shift click these guys, we could just pull these guys, or we could read all of the patches. So you can see right up here, you're about to load all the data from the GT-10. Cool. Okay, that's done, and now we have all of the user patches that are currently within the GT-10. From here, you can select any one of these guys and just drop them into the temporary area of the GT-10. We'll say yes to this, and then we could work on them within the GT-10 and then write them to any location within the GT-10. Conversely, we could select any patch on the GT-10 and read or pull that into the selected area right here within our Librarian. So I'm pulling the fourth one across, MS Riff, and I've dropped that into the first location. Okay, so now once we have all of our patches over here in the main window, we can select any number of them using the standard ways to select data on a computer. These are things you're used to. Just shift click to select a range of them, control click to select individual ones or deselect individual ones. So with these guys selected, go up underneath copy, and we've copied them on the clipboard, and we'll make a new library file. We'll select end of and insert. Great, here are all of our files here. Now if I wanted to insert some more, we'll just repeat the process. In fact, let me go up underneath here, underneath window, and we'll tile these vertically, and we could go across here and select a few others and decide where you want to insert them. Perhaps I want to insert them right here. I'm sorry, I need to copy them first. So copy, select where you want to insert them, and insert. Great, we now have 11 patches and we can save them off to a file. Now once they are saved off, we can then call them back up and then reverse the process and put them back into the GT-10. Select save, and we'll give it a location and a name. A desktop and test will be fine. We'll save it off, and if I close this library file, then all of that is saved on our desktop. And imagine it's 6 months later and we want to open up that file. We could bring it back. In fact, let me just tile these guys vertically so we can see both at the same time. And then within that library file that you've resurrected, we could go and, using our typical way of selecting data within computers, shift click or control click to select certain ones. You could then select a subset of these saved files in our library, and underneath edit, we can copy them. Okay, let me close this out and I'll maximize the main screen. And then you can decide where you're going to insert that in this main screen. So let's imagine I want to drop it in here, and I'll go up underneath edit and I'll insert. And you can see those 3 files have come across here. Now, you could then elect to just select any one of these guys and write them into the temporary area of your GT-10. Or if you want, you could make a selection and then write them all at once into your GT-10. Please take care with this approach, as it will overwrite anything that is currently in those locations within your GT-10. So using the librarian requires kind of a little bit of thought as to where the information is going. I would always recommend making a complete backup before you get started, and call it safety with today's data. Burn it onto a CDR, put it up on the shelf. Of course, you can always restore the GT-10 to its factory condition underneath a system, a factory reset. We'll look at that in a moment. But if you've spent a bunch of time making your own user patches, boy, it's really easy to wipe them out with a librarian if you're not paying attention. Okay, on to another cool way of using USB, and that is passing audio back and forth. I'm going to demonstrate this using Sonar, but you can do this in pretty much most audio applications. So I have my GT-10 connected via USB, and we'll bring this up as an audio input right within this program. There you go, GT-10. Left, right, or stereo. Let's bring it up in stereo, and we'll arm that track and check it out. That can be recorded right within this program. If your audio application is somehow passing the audio back through that USB cable, you may want to turn off the direct monitor underneath the USB settings. That way you don't get the signal looping back around. There's actually a great illustration of this on page 93 of the manual that visually explains this loop problem. So that's pretty much all you need to do to record into your audio application. What about applying the GT-10 to an output of an existing track's playback? I'll select the output of this particular dry track right into our Boss GT-10, and we'll make sure that the input screen of the GT-10 is set to USB. And then we'll go to a new track and set that to look at the input of the GT-10. Very, very cool. Your dry track comes out, goes through the GT-10, and gets recorded back onto another track in your audio application. Now, there are a few monitoring issues that come to mind when doing this. Make sure that your